Thank you, Pat, and the Elks Club, and to our mayor, council, and all our guests. This year, we mark the 40th anniversary, as the mayor said, since the withdrawal of the final United States combat troops from Vietnam, when the last soldiers took flights home on March 29, 1973. Many of Tenafly's Vietnam veterans have memories of that conflict that go back longer than that. This year, we're able to remember those forgotten warriors, some of whom are here today. In November 1982, a plaque was presented by the Tenafly Rotary Club and was dedicated in the Roosevelt Commons, honoring the local men who served in the Vietnam conflict. 30 years have passed, and the plaque, placed on a monument of sandstone, has since been moved here to Huyler Park. It now sits at the south end of the park, near the granite monument honoring veterans and casualties of World Wars I, II, and the Korean conflict. As far as recognition goes, however, the veterans of Vietnam were not always in such close proximity to those of the other wars. At least 23 men who were residents of Tenafly during the conflict saw action in the Vietnam War. Some were drafted into the service, many volunteered. During the annual Tenafly Memorial Day roll call of casualties, it is noted that no resident of the borough of Tenafly was a casualty of the Vietnam War. However, what is not often told is that a member of the Tenafly community did in fact perish. John Michael Kapeluk, a Cresskill resident but member of Tenafly High School's class of 1964, since Creskill's students were still graduating from Tenafly High at that time, was killed on November 8, 1967 at the age of 20. Kapeluk was on patrol for water when he was cut down by a suicidal enemy soldier who was willing to sacrifice his own life to take down those of unsuspecting Americans. John Kapeluk's high school friends will always remember their schoolmate. Another veteran, Stuart Waterworth of Tenafly High School's class of 63, passed away in 1981 due to medical complications. We take this time to reflect back on 40 years since the end of the combat, to remember all those brave warriors who put themselves in the line of danger for our freedom. Before I read the names of the Tenafly Vietnam servicemen, I have a letter to read that I received this past week from our governor. Dear friends, it's my distinct honor to extend greetings and best wishes to the residents of Tenafly as you gather this Memorial Day to salute all our Vietnam veterans. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the withdrawal of the final troops from the war. United States military involvement in the Vietnam War lasted from 1965 to 1973, during which time many of our nation's service members lost their lives and many were wounded. Today's ceremony is an opportune time to recognize those heroes who so selflessly laid themselves on the line to defend our freedom and liberty. Our Vietnam veterans represent our nation's greatest values: bravery, loyalty, and unbreakable resolve in the face of adversity. I am honored to join with all those gathered in Tenafly today in saluting our veterans for their dedication to protect our country and preserve its way of life. Sincerely, Chris Christie, Governor. I'm now going to read a roll call of the Tenafly residents who left our town to serve in Vietnam. John Cremens, Larry Gregano, Richard Myersberg, Donald Shate, Ronald Chambers, Gordon Hermanson, James Henry, Peter Mazzei, Jim Kurge, Tenafly High, class of 59, John Goodwin, class of 59, David Bauer, class of 60, Barry Birch, class of 60, Roger Lowe, class of 62, Stuart Waterworth, class of 63, deceased, Stephen Kapkowitz, class of 63, William Powers, class of 64, a Purple Heart recipient, Fred Robbins, class of 64, Richard Effris, class of 64, Newell Benedict, class of 64, James Church, class of 64, Kenneth Burrows, class of 67, Frank Fraga, class of 68, and finally our Grand Marshal honoree for Memorial Day 2013, Martin Miles, class of 64, Purple Heart Distinguished Service Cross recipient. To all these men, we appreciate your service to our country. from my generation, which looked up to yours, and many of which followed in your footsteps, we salute you. From all of Tenafly, your Tenafly, we salute you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. This year's Grand Marshal